Testing.
I know.
I tried to tell Britt that that's where that's where I feel like I am, but I get shot
Okay, is everyone ready? We'll get started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled committee of the whole meeting. Call this meeting order. Today's date is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. We have a full agenda today, and I just want to preface this by saying that I have a long-standing medical appointment that I have to be at, so I'll have to leave here by 12:30, so I apologize in advance. We'll turn the agenda over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Item number 1 was Gabe Zika from the Iron Range Half Marathon. He could not be here today due to an illness, so he's going to plan to come to the March 11th council meeting. So we'll go to item number 2, because Matt Reed is always number 1. Our city engineer of record. We were just joking earlier that Matt's usually number 1 on the agenda. And the one time I didn't put him number 1, he still ends up being number 1. Matt Reed, SCH. The first one is approve the resolution for supplemental letter agreement for the Rotary Park Sanitary Sewer and 7th Street North Storm Sewer Project.
Morning. Thanks, Matt.
Good morning. Yeah, so we have this project out for bids, and so this is a supplemental letter agreement for the construction services for us, and then for the design work that we actually did on the 7th Street or the Pahaki stuff. So I can answer any questions you might have.
I would move the approval of the supplemental agreement.
Support.
Councilor Freely moves to approve the supplemental agreement with SCH, supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
The next item is designation of the resolution for designating no parking on 14th Avenue South from 20th Street down to Southern Drive, and then on Southern Drive from 14th Avenue west to the city limit line, basically over to the railroad tracks. The purpose for this has to do with the state aid requirements that we have. That's a state aid route, and so we're able to utilize our municipal state aid funding to help pay for the reconstruction of that route. Part of their requirements, design standards, require that we have parking. If we don't have parking, at least have some sort of a resolution in place that we do not have so people don't park there. So we design it a certain way, we design it for no parking, and then it's signed and designated by the city as no parking. So it's a stipulation that they require as part of their processes for funding. So there's really nobody that parks along there anyway right now. So I don't think it really should affect anybody, but we just need the official action to give to state aid.
I will move the resolution.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the resolution. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley, is there any further discussion? Councilor Freely.
So ultimately, there's really no residences along there, correct?
Just the block between 21st and 20th Street.
And this wouldn't subject somebody, let's say, for example, they park the truck along the side to walk their dog for a while or something like that. Even that would be against the...
No parking. Now, we're gonna put drive-over curb there. So it won't be a standard straight up and down curb. We're gonna put slanted curb. So if people happen to wanna pull up on the side and get off to the edge of the road and off the road and.
And that's accessible there. And is that city property?
No parking. Nope, it's not city property, actually.
State?
Well, let me take that back. It is city property, it's right away. You have easement in there.
But in order to get this money, we need to have that no parking
It's,
designated.
yeah, either that or we have to design it for parking, which means we'd have to widen the road by several feet.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moved and supported. Further discussion. Councilor Johnson.
Does that requirement include signage?
Yes, we'll put no parking signs out there.
Okay, thanks.
Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and then thank you. And the third item C, is agreement with NTS for construction materials testing for the alley project. So that's the city has typically had NTS contracted to do that work for you. So I got a proposal from them, reviewed it, it's got everything that's required, and that'll be for testing compaction and materials testing, things like that, as we go forward with the alley project. So I'd recommend approval of that.
Move to approve by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. Any further discussion? Counselor Johnson?
I will be recusing myself as this is my alley.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. With one recusal, or is that proper, or is it a proper term? Abstention, one abstention. Thank you. Okay. We voted, yep.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Thank you, Matt.
I'm good, sorry, thank you. Yep, I'm good, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
Item number 3 is Sean Lewis from Cross Anderson regarding some change orders for the Virginia Public Safety Center.
Good morning, Mr. Lewis. I see you dressed for the occasion.
Yes, sir. Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, and staff. Great to be here again this morning. Bear with me 1 minute while I cast my screen again. I have a PowerPoint ready this morning. Takes a couple minutes, but I have this in the PowerPoint, but I'm a little too eager to hold back on it. We do have a tour planned this week, so I'm excited to share that on Thursday. So looking forward to seeing everybody's excitement when we go through that together later this week. I have a short update on progress of the construction of the new public safety facility. Also have a few change orders to recommend this morning. Most of them are relatively minor coordination type items, and then a couple of owner added enhancements to the project as well. Trying to multitask while I do this too.
While you do that, can I give them a quick update that we got to tour yesterday?
You bet.
Oh, you got it, okay. Well, I just
Go
thought
ahead.
anybody that goes for the tour on Thursday, wear shoes that you're okay with getting a little dirty, or maybe some mud boots. But I can tell you that the facility looks amazing. We were blown away yesterday. We'll be there on Thursday as well to kind of help with the tour.
Awesome.
You know, I for our officers that haven't gone through it yet, what I keep telling them is, when I've gone to, say, a house that I'm looking to possibly purchase, and you walk in and, like, the pictures, you're like, oh, that room's a lot smaller than I thought. That is not the case in this facility. Everything is so big and so exactly what we needed. And after 5 years or whatever of seeing things on paper to finally seeing it, we were blown away yesterday. So you guys will really enjoy it on Thursday if you get a chance to go.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah. That's one thing I really like about my job. Yeah, is seeing the end users get really excited for their new facility. Yeah, so looking forward to the tour on Thursday. It should be a lot of fun. And the things are coming together really well. Overall, project's going great. I will share a short schedule update later. I will say, relatively speaking, we're on schedule. I'll elaborate a little bit more later. We're within the budget on the project. And I think everybody's pretty excited, and things are going relatively smoothly, and we have a lot of people working on site, anywhere between 50 to 100 workers each day there right now. Everybody's playing nicely in the sandbox for the most part. That's where Mr. Gary Francisco comes in and helps make sure everybody's playing nice out there, but things are going really well overall. I have a few pictures to illustrate as well. We have a lot of interior wall framing and sheetrock going. Kind of exciting to see like the chief said, to see things start coming together, taking shape inside the building. Can also see too, more interior wall framing, sheetrocking. Of course, mechanical and plumbers, electricians, they don't all get all the glory all the time, but do have a lot of things going in the walls too, rough-in we call it. Plumbing, electrical, conduit, things like that, receptacles going in the wall. You can see a picture on the right here of a window. Also another exciting part of the project. We have windows going in. A lot of the windows are already installed. So you can start seeing on the outside, the building's also starting to have a finished appearance, which is real exciting to see, including wall panels you see here too. Overhead garage doors. Most of the overhead garage doors have gone in. And this picture here is what will be the new apparatus bay for the fire trucks. And that's also exciting inside and outside to see those going in. Painting. We have paint going on the walls. Also a great sign of progress. Takes a few seconds for the picture to turn. There you go. Come on. I have a picture of paint on the next. There we go. Here it is. And the apparatus bay, if you did notice, it's a little harder to see in a zoomed out picture of the previous photo, but that's also painted as well. And then you can see here really well, the paint's going on the wall. So that's a real, I point that out, it's a real big milestone in a project when we start seeing paint going on the walls. Stairs are in. So we have most of the stairs in. This is the lower portion of what is going to be the training stair tower. And we also have stairs in the rest of the building too. That's one of the reasons we're ready for a tour, so we don't have to ask people to climb up and down a ladder. Quick overall, so that's a quick overall progress update. A lot is happening. I've got a little more later on too to share with what's coming up. And then a quick overall budget update. Like I mentioned, we're in good shape still on the budget and within budget on the project. We currently have, if you look at down in the center lower part, about a little over $768,000 remaining in contingency right now. So we have adequate funds to cover the change order requests that I'll be recommending on the next couple of slides. And again, just to review, I've collapsed this summary. So the change orders that we've been logging on here, and we'd be more than happy to share this if anybody wants it too, but we've kind of been sharing as we go. Anything we've reviewed previously is up above, just for the purpose of easier viewing on the screen. So these are newer, updated things for change orders and the contingency log, just to explain that a little bit. Again, reminder, coming into spring here soon, had some spring weather, which is also kind of a nice relief. For me at least, I think, and we've got $67,000 set aside for some contaminated soil we need to remediate still in the spring. Okay, change orders to recommend. We have 8, most of them relatively small, and then like I mentioned, 2 of them are owner-added enhancements. And Mr. Mayor, would you like previously go through these one at a time? Sounds good.
Yes, one at a time, thank you.
Yes, of course, sir. Change order request 28 is for adding in some insulation to the thresholds on the door that goes out to the patio from the day area or the kind of the kitchenette area upstairs. There's a door that goes out to the rooftop patio. Our envelope consultant combined with our team, we all thought that needed some added insulation there. $780.71.
So moved.
A move to approve by Councilor Johnson on change order the first, number 1. That was change order request 28. Support by?
Support.
Councilor Paulson. Is there any further discussion on this change order? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Change order request number 29. It is related to a few fire doors that needed some hardware adjusted to accommodate the fire assembly at those doors. That's for $866.99.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 30 is for UH as an acronym for unit heater. 25, it's in the training tower. That unit heater needed to be relocated, which added some extra piping and work to do it up a little bit higher than what it was. That's $1,874.46.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of change order request number 30 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Change order request 31 is for adding heat trace at this training stair tower where there's some plumbing that's too closely exposed to some cold weather. So we wanted to make sure to protect that from freezing. That's for $5,692.42.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Freely. Further discussion Counselor Paulson.
Oh, sorry, Mayor.
Further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Thank you. Can you be more basic in what, is this just insulation? Is that what it is, or what exactly?
It's heat tape, kind of similar to what on your home one would put on a gutter to prevent the gutters from freezing.
Okay.
We do the same thing in some of the water lines, roof leaders, the drains for the roof, things like that, to prevent them from freezing.
Thank you.
Yes, of course, sir.
Thank you. Moved and supported for change order number 31. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Change order request number 32, during the submittal coordination phase, we had countertops going over the space where a stove is going to go in the kitchen. So that was taken out, and there's a credit of $423 back to the budget.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Bachschnider for the deduct on change order number 32. Is there support? By Counselor Freelieb. Counselor Bachschnider with the motion, Counselor Freelieb with the second. Is there any further
This is
discussion?
Counselor Beyondich with the motion.
I'm sorry. Counselor Beyondich made the motion and supported by Counselor Freelieb. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, change order request number 33. In the workrooms between apparatus bays, one of the pictures earlier, we were looking at apparatus bay. The ambulances, just behind that, there's a workroom area. This is an owner-added enhancement to those spaces to add outlets and all of the circuits and everything to go with it for using welders in those spaces. And if the ancillary things to go with that. $9,771.49.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Motley. This is our request for this change order, right, by owner added.
Yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Change order request number 34. This is for wall panels on a space of the wall. This is a value engineering coordination item. When we value engineer $4 million out of a project, some things don't get detailed as well as we'd like them to. Wall panels were not clearly shown, but they do need to go on that part of the wall. So this is for putting those wall panels on there. It is an added value to the project and to the city. No rework involved or anything like that, so no additional expenses related to this one, to be clear. That's for $17,495.89.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Supported by Counselor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And last for today, change order request number 35, plume event system. And quick explanation for this, just in case anybody's not aware or anybody's watching online. Plume event system is for the exhaust system that plugs into the fire trucks so that they can turn fire trucks on. Doors are still closed. That will exhaust any CO2 out of the building before they open the doors and leave. And they're designed so the trucks, they don't have to unhook them either. They're designed so the trucks can pull out and the plume event breaks loose. It's designed to come off of the truck as it pulls out of the bay. The fifth bay on the end did not originally have the plume event system extended out to there. This is an owner added enhancement as well to add a plume event system to that fifth bay. So that's for $28,776.32.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Motley for change order request number 35, owner enhanced request for adjustment. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Mayor, Sean, on the other bays, on the other 4 bays, was that the price per bay as well?
Good question. I don't know that off the top of my head. I can certainly go back and let you know.
I'm just wondering if curious if it's more expensive now that we're adding it in.
No, it should not be.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Lewis. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, thank you. I have two more quick slides. Like I mentioned, pre-schedule update. I've mentioned in some previous meetings, we had weather delays. Once we got into roofing, which is a critical path of the project, we experienced about 6 weeks, really, of critical path delay to the project. Mr. Francisco and the team and I have looked closely at this. We are not specifically recommending an extension to the contract at this time. However, we did want to clarify, and this is something Britt and I talked about, we wanted to clarify expectations of what the final months of the project may look like. We were really ahead of schedule a little bit, going into fall and winter. And then those weather delays obviously slowed that a little bit, and we've made up some time. January and February have been really good on the schedule, and things have progressed well. Currently, we are targeting a building substantial completion of the end of July. The 25th is kind of that Friday that's close to, so that's our current target date for building substantial completion. And then what follows after that would be furniture. So we would start to move into the building. Furniture would start to go in August, which kind of gets exciting talking about some of these things. And then the staff could expect sometime in September, most likely the building would be ready for occupancy and operations. So just a quick kind of an outline for that, and that's where we're headed right now on schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then like I mentioned, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, were you?
No, go ahead, please
Okay.
continue.
And then, like I mentioned, a lot of things going on. You can see on the screen here, metal stud framing, more rough ends, window install, overhead garage doors, painting, wall panels, sheet rocking. A lot of work is getting done. Also have the solar design going in progress right now. The goal right now is next meeting or the following meeting to have the final estimate of what the costs are for solar, which is anticipated to be at or lower than where we were at when we approved the design to move forward on that. But that's progressing in the meantime. That'll also be something that'll be done this spring and summer. And then a tour on Thursday.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not looking forward to, we're anticipating no other change orders to come about, so this is going to be a good thing, so. All right, thank you. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Sean, do you happen to know offhand what our FF&E budget is? Did we set that?
Yes. It is I'm going by memory, but I think it's like $550,000. Britt, does that sound right? 550 or 560? Yeah, it's a little over $500,000.
Okay, and then the procurement on the items, how is that? Is that an open bid? I'm just curious as when
Great
we
question.
did it with the Armstrong Motors Event Center, we tried to source local, but I know some of the companies are closed. So I'm just curious as to how that's going to work.
Great question. Wold Architects is currently working on the design for furniture. And based on our schedule, and that's one of the important reasons of providing the schedule update for everybody, was so we know when we'll be ready for furniture, and then kind of working backwards from that. Working together, we would come up with a schedule where we go through the design. There's been several user group meetings as well with the staff to kind of get an idea of what the expectations are and the likes and needs and wants of furniture. And once that design is finished, then requests for proposals will be sent out to furniture vendors. Of course, Wold does a lot of these types of public safety buildings, so they've got vendors that do these types of buildings. And then always if there's a local vendor that the owner, the city, the staff would like to include in that process, that's always encouraged. And then they get an opportunity to bid on the project and hopefully provide furniture for the project. And then we work through the procurement process and set that date of delivery for furniture in August.
Thanks for that explanation.
You're welcome. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Lewis?
If I can jump in really fast on something too, I haven't had a chance to talk, Sean and I have been talking directly on some of these things. But there are a few things that are sourced by the city directly, which would be like our internet and our phone systems and the wireless access points. What else, Sean? The security system
Yep, security.
and cameras. And I think we have all those ancillary things ready to start coming forward and out to the council for approval. So they're not technically under Kraus Anderson, but they're working with and in conjunction with. So Kraus Anderson and Gary and Sean have been meeting with these contractors, making sure that they, things are in the right places so that when they come in with this equipment, everything's there and it's ready to go. But I do have almost all of the contracts, or almost all the proposals ready to come bring to you, to the council for approval very soon here.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Yeah, likewise, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very
Have
much.
a good day, everybody.
You do the same.
Thank you so much, Sean. It is so exciting to finally see it getting to be a real building, so it's exciting. Item number 4 is review the updated travel policy from the January 14th, 2025 City Council meeting.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you. One thing I think needs to be added is that the introduction, the purpose, blah, 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 sitting meetings by city employees. I would also like to see elected officials put in there. I think it's important that we demonstrate leadership, and that should be added into the policy. The second point I have, 1.1 same-day travel. The definition is when we get to the end, employees should submit their travel plans, including the purpose of travel, destination, estimate time, at least 24 hours in advance when possible. That doesn't make any sense. We're talking about same-day travel. Like, by definition, you cannot submit a request 24 hours in advance for same-day travel. What I'm thinking about is getting a call at 8 o'clock in the morning that a large conglomerate of wealthy folks are having lunch in Duluth and have invited someone to come down there to talk about the naming rights of one of our buildings. There's absolutely no way to do that 24 hours. So by requesting it 24 hours in advance for same-day travel, when possible, it's never going to be possible if it's same-day travel. So I think that's a little ironic and contradictory the way it's worded. Other than that, I think that this will allow the staff that need to make on-the-fly decisions about marketing or perhaps other things that might come up is much more conducive to furthering the city's business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Britt, I appreciate you adding the language that you did in here. I think that the same-day travel, that discussion was, or added by our city clerk, is that correct, Britt? That she, I guess, had, in her training, said that we have to be covered for liability purposes, and that was added. And so I don't know if our legal can weigh in, but it's just to notify, according to when I spoke with our city clerk, it's basically a notification that the employee would be leaving so that the city clerk would have just the knowledge of that, and that we would know that for insurance purposes, should something happen while that employee is off site. Is that correct?
That sounds correct.
Okay. So that, I think, I'm comfortable with that. When it says, Britt, to reference listed in section 4.1, is that the actual expense sheet in the packet, the expense reimbursement sheet, is that 4.1?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and that's something I don't know that we've ever seen come, that's an internal document? Is that correct? We usually see the actual travel request form. So is that supplement 4.1 the actual expense
I
reimbursement
think they
sheet?
got flip-flopped. It was supposed to be the request form is first, and then the reimbursement is second. So
Okay.
maybe I will put the actual title and the,
Okay.
as shown in exhibit.
That would help, yep.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is when we are doing And this policy, I don't think is being changed specifically for, one job title. I think it needs to be adhered to by all. And so when department heads come forward, so the process is the employee would seek to do a travel, day travel, weekend travel, whatever. They bring it forward to their supervisor, is that correct, Britt? And then the supervisor signs off, and it comes before the council 30 days prior to the travel request? That's the process? Okay. And then the council then approves or denies the travel request. And in there, I feel like Councilor Beyondich had asked when, or how do we know, like, if it's within their budget? That was one of the other questions I feel like Councilor Beyondich has asked or raised in the past, that when it comes on our packet, that it stated is covered by the budget, or how could we word that?
I think maybe in that travel request form, it's just as simple as, has this been budgeted for if part of your annual
Okay.
budget? Just something very simple that that at least the department head or somebody's recognizing, yes, no, we did budget for this or not.
Okay, so do you want to add that as a line item in the?
On that
So
form.
that should be 4.1? Okay. And then I think that's all that I have, other than the fact that my expectations would be that the policy is followed. And what happens if the policy is not followed? Do we have a process for not following our policy and procedure?
Yes, we do have the collective bargaining agreements that do have disciplinary action.
Okay.
And all of them, it would follow the disciplinary action.
So it would follow the disciplinary action of the bargaining unit that the employee sits in? Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
I do want to point out, I did get one question from staff regarding the way the IRS considers incidentals now. They did change that, so they list incidentals as $5 at the end. So it looks like the breakfast, lunch, and dinner went down, but they've now breaking it out into a separate category. They don't include it as part of the breakfast stipend anymore. And it's really, it's still there, it's just the way the IRS broke it out. And tips are considered incidental. So that's, you just include that like you always have. Nothing is different for staff, it's just the way the IRS breaks it out now. A little more scrutiny on the IRS's side is what really came down to.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bachschnider.
Thank you. The only question that I have is under the expense guideline 3.2.5, it says the city will pay for one personal phone call length within reason. I'm wondering if that's something that is still relevant, given that most people probably have cell phones now, and like, I guess I wouldn't even know where you would pay for a phone call in public. That's probably very Gen Z of me.
I've worked here for a long time before I went to Aurora, and then I came back. I remember one. There was one phone call that somebody made from a hotel room that was paid for. Sherry might remember any more, but I do know there was one.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we even want to include that anymore.
Like that, yeah, definitely.
I'm thinking, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bachschnider. Okay, come on up, Chief.
Good morning again.
Morning, Chief.
Just a couple things I wanted to add. You know, a lot of times when we have policies like this, we try to make the one size fits all, and we get that. And I'm just speaking on behalf of the police department. Sometimes things happen that we as a police department have to react to immediately. And I'll give you an example of, let's just say, and God forbid, because it's been a few years, but we had a murder in town. We have evidence that needs to go down to the BCA in Bemidji, like, immediately. So again, where does that neatly fit into this policy that we're trying to make one size fits all? We've had instances where we've had somebody that was pre-approved to go to training, and the day of, all of a sudden, they're sick. So now we're sending another officer on the fly. They weren't approved by the council, but we're trying to make sure that the tax dollars that were paid for that training aren't just going to be wasted. So again, that's where we get a little concerned when we try to box things in a little bit. And, you know, even as my time as a scout sniper team leader in the Marine Corps, to my time as a lieutenant here, to time as a deputy chief, We try not to punish everybody for the acts of a few, and sometimes it seems like when we're revisiting things, that's kind of what we're doing. So I know Chief Mattson asked me to bring up a few of those things. I could go on and on with examples of things that we as a police department need to do on the fly. Maybe we have a juvenile that wound up down at AJC in Duluth, and we need to send one of our investigators down there right now to interview that individual or collect evidence from them. Those are things that need to happen right now that are going to require the chief's approval to go down there. If she's gone, my approval. We don't have time to get council approval or a lot of times even the mayor's approval. So again, whether it is informing the city clerk through email that we're sending somebody to travel or whatever, but again, sometimes we can't just neatly blanket cover everything that we as a department need to do. So that's the police department side. Any questions on that?
No, it's a very good point, Chief. I just don't get this. Anyway, Sherry had some comment first, and then we'll go to Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, Council, in the past, and I guess I don't see it in the travel policy, we had emergency travel, and it was either approved by the mayor and city administrator at the time, city operations director.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering if we could in fact add an addendum onto that regarding that. Okay, thank you.
I get it, Chief. I've been there. And I can go on about the previous policies we had in the past and how it was, much more streamlined than what we're discussing here today, but we have to get through this. So now, is there any other questions or comments regarding the update of the travel policy? We'll go to Councilor Johnson.
And I guess that was my point when I first brought it up, the last sentence about employees should submit their travel requests within 24 hours. I think if that line was deleted, that would totally take care of your ability because it already says it's going to be supervised, direct supervisor, and before arrangements are made, you might be doing it while arrangements are being made. And I think just that little tweak in the same day travel makes perfect sense. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be an overnight travel if we're sending an officer on a midnight shift at 11 o'clock to Bemidji. I would hope that we would understand that it is a safety issue expecting them to drive back since their nighttime is the daytime. So I think some common sense is all we need when it comes to this. I know our staff are very good at documentation and sending emails. Britt would have this information as it was happening, as she always does when there's an emergency or something happening in town. So my recommendation again would be to drop that last the last sentence about employees submitting plans and put emergency circumstances will be considered same-day travel with the same approvals. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please, Brian.
And I don't, I'm listening to the conversation and I kind of want to just clarify because it sounds like there may be some ambiguity. The same day travel, the way that I understand that provision is that it's just travel that happens within one day but extends maybe beyond the work hours. It doesn't necessarily contemplate emergency travel. And I think what the deputy chief was bringing up would be something like a separate category called, emergency service duty travel or something like that, where you create a category that speaks to the exigencies that are attendant to emergency services and kind of makes it a little bit more flexible because we realize that in addition to the travel, we're probably having some overtime and some other things because we're on something that can't be delayed or put off.
Yeah, and a lot of things there going in my mind, some things I could say, but just make one comment. No police officer or firefighter, paramedic who gets an emergency call in the middle of the night, you have to call an investigator on a major crime, should have to fill out a travel request 24 hours prior. How do you know that, number one? Number two, a call out is a call out. It's an emergency situation. You shouldn't have to get permission to travel to do an interview, to investigate a crime, to do those kind of things, and there's call-outs as an investigator gets called out because they have a specialty, that has to be authorized by the department head or the supervisor on duty to negate any reason to fill out some travel policy. So, I mean, so we have a lot of things to move, to make some adjustments to and discuss further on this travel policy. So thank you for bringing that up, Chief. Does anybody else have anything else you'd like to bring up on the travel policy at this time? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So according to Brian, Lindsay, if we add that additional, I guess, it would be in the, under the definitions section, then we could keep the 24 hours advance notice. And I feel like that's because of our city clerk just needed to know. And I don't think, Mayor, that it's not necessarily filling out an actual full-on request. It's just letting a notification. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and again, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you get called out to go to a crime, you should have to notify somebody outside the department head.
And
I
that's
mean,
that's
right?
not, we would be adding a section to exempt that. This is for
That's what I'm saying.
any other travel.
That's what
day
I'm
travel.
saying. This travel policy
Yeah.
is still in the works. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
Staff will make the updates and bring it back for council approval. Item number 5 is discuss the request to seek external candidates for the open repair crew foreman position in the Public Works Department. You will see in your packet, I did include an email that I had sent to the council stating that AFSCME has requested that we post it internally again. We are not obligated to, as we have fulfilled our collective bargaining agreement obligation. They are just asking if we would consider doing an extra internal posting.
As long as it doesn't create a precedent, I'm comfortable with that. First, Councilor Motley, and then over to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Motley.
So Jim was here maybe, I don't know, a week or two ago talking about this. And I guess my understanding was that I just wanted to make sure before I move one way or another, is it still your recommendation to keep this external and try to get a qualified candidate for this position?
Jim, would you please come forward? Thank you. Jim Rosved, our Park and Public Works Director. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. I guess my advice, or what I would recommend is, we keep continuing to kicking the can down the road is what's happening. Even though that last council meeting, we kicked this down to the next committee of the whole meeting. So here we are again, and I've been without a repair foreman for 3 months. I'm open to either way on this, but I don't want to see it be a continuous thing. We're shuffling guys around, and if I bring a guy back in from my union, then I've got to have somebody replace him in the sewer department. So then that goes back to 10-day posting or 2-week posting internally. Then it goes back to, and if we take no one there, then we sit again with all people again. So, I'm going 6 months losing an employee and valuable employees that I need for longer increments than we should be, so.
So is it in your best interest for this council to approve, because is it in your best interest as a supervisor down there to let this stay as an external posting?
I would say yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Jim, if you can hang on just one moment. Councilor Johnson, then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lindsay, this might be, I don't know, Britt, Sherry, can we post it in tandem at the same time so it's an internal and external posting so we cannot keep doing the can?
Sherry.
Because we already posted internally with the union per the contract, I would say that anybody who wanted to apply could apply at the same time and external posting is done.
Then my further question would be, if there's an additional internal posting, is there, and I honestly don't know, is there a priority we can give because they're internal posting? Because they would have internal knowledge of what was going, so they may be more qualified than an external person.
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. In terms of how we would approach it, I think the city could do whatever it would prefer. That being said, the fact that we've already gone through the internal posting, the preference that exists there, everybody's already been given an opportunity to exercise it. So at this point, I think we would go, because we have the opportunity to go to an external, I think that it would be take the most qualified applicants.
And I appreciate that. I know your frustration. I've heard your frustration, Jim, from not only you, but from other employees who need the leadership and want to do their own jobs instead of somebody else's job. So I am very supportive of posting this externally, knowing that internal candidates can definitely apply moving forward. So I will move the posting forward.
And I'm not here to offend the union, but they were given a 10-day notification. I feel that that's more than sufficient time to make a decision whether you want to change your paths or so be it. But to re-enter it again and for it messes with my schedule and to get, and I'm coming into construction season now where things are going to get extremely busy, so.
Okay, thank you, Jim. If you just hang on for a few moments here. A motion by Councilor Johnson to make a motion to seek an external candidate for the open repair crew foreman in the Public Works Department. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Councilor Motley for discussion. Because you just seconded the motion, we'll go to you first and then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Motley.
I hope you get a qualified candidate at your position in your department to make it easier for you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so I think most of my questions got answered, but the email in our packet, Britt, is that what we were just being asked to consider? And it's not, we've already done our,
We've
we've
done our
already
due
followed the
diligence.
contractual language.
Correct.
So this was just a request.
Correct.
And then just for clarification, if we do the external, we still, anybody within the union could apply to that external
100%.
posting.
And we've had that happen, if you recall. There was a
Okay.
couple internal postings we had that internal employees ended up applying.
Okay, and then this is currently, you've had this in your budget for this position because the person retired or?
Yes.
So this is,
He was no longer working in November and he's been off the book since the first of the year.
so this, but this was a budgeted position for 2025?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Johnson, do you have something? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? So there's a motion on the floor and a second to seek an external candidate for the open repair crew foreman in the Public Works Department. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Item number 6 is a request to approve appointment of fire marshal for the Virginia Fire Department.
So moved.
A move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? I'm glad we have an internal candidate. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 7A is the single role paramedic for the Virginia Fire Department to approve hiring.
So moved.
Move to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
By Councilor Motley for further discussion. This is a replacement. Councilor Motley.
Thank you for, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
7B was a resolution to approve the hiring of a dual role firefighter EMT for the Virginia Fire Department.
This is also a replacement?
This is we have open spots in the dual roles.
Yep, thank you. I'm sorry. Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 8 is from the Personnel Committee meeting from February 24th, 2025. The first item that that we're bringing forward to the committee of the whole is to review the proposed community service officer position description for the police department. And we do have Deputy Chief Chad Nicola here.
Okay. Deputy Chief Nicola, good morning.
Let's do it.
All
No,
those
thank
in
you to the
favor?
Personnel Committee for moving this forward. Do appreciate it. So, again, I gave you guys a brief description when I gave the presentation a couple weeks ago. Again, Britt did a great job of putting the actual job description and stuff down here. Do I have any specific questions or concerns? I think this is our pipeline that we need to get people in the door, get eyes on them, especially eyes on them before we actually hire them as patrol officers. You know, a lot of savings by the time we get somebody actually in these positions, we're looking at the first 3 months of 2025 where we've been down to 3 full-time positions. These positions are easily covered by that and then some, so.
Thank you. It's a good opportunity to move forward with a feeder system for the career enhancement opportunity, but it also, we get additional community service out of this deal too, so it's a win-win. Appreciate you considering this, Chief. Okay, thank you. Councilor Bachschnider.
Thank you. The only question I have is the rate of pay for this role the same as other seasonal roles in other departments?
I don't think we haven't got that far to establish a rate.
Yeah, and I know for us, we base that off of what Chisholm and Hibbing are offering to their CSO positions. We want to pay them more to really rope some more in, we could.
Yeah, so we will have that in an answer for Councilor Bachschnider as we move forward with this.
It does look like there's a suggested rate of pay within, yeah, okay, perfect.
That's the suggested rate, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Based upon comparable positions throughout the range.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Bachschnider?
And I know we don't have the answer right now, I'm just wondering what it is compared to other city departments
Sure,
for
certainly.
seasonal employees.
And you could provide that for us, Chief, right? Britt? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson?
I will move the job description forward to start negotiations with the ELS and get this more formalized so we can get it moving.
Okay, moved by Councilor Johnson to move forward with the Community Services Officer position. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Freelieb. Further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a seasonal position. It is a non-union position. So by approving this, it's just going to go forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we've already had discussions with LELS. They know that it's a non-union position, so they're in support of this happening this time.
So then by this motion going forward, and then it just gets approved at the council level, we're good to go, right?
You can start posting then.
Okay.
Yeah, I do need to fill in who they report to. I didn't know if you were going to be their supervisor, Chad, or.
We'll put me down.
Thank you.
And, you know, and the other thing would be the number. You know, I would like to have 4 would be awesome. 3 is great, 2 is good, but the more the merrier, let's be honest. Because again, we know you hire, say, 4 of them. There may be 1 or 2 of them that at the end of the first seasonal period, okay, it's not going quite the way we want with them. And that gives us the opportunity to bring somebody else into the fold as well. So that's the beauty of this type of position.
And the purpose of this moving forward is to expedite and to make sure we establish a rate of pay for that as well, as Councilor Bachschnider alluded to. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. Just one further question. So when we were talking about this at the personnel committee level, I was also thinking like this, I mean, maybe it will or maybe it won't, but do you think it'll cut down on some of the overtime having this?
Some maybe, but not completely. At the end of the day, you still need patrol officers out
Sure.
there. You
I
know,
mean, like for park stuff and things like that. I mean, if
some of
it
those
might
things can help.
offset
Yep,
a little
absolutely.
bit
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Justify.
The events thing will be a huge
Yeah.
one.
The balloon,
Yeah.
you know, those kind of
Yep,
things.
especially, I mean, when we're paying an officer overtime to stay late, to be down at the fireworks or something like that, when one of these positions is just on duty, I mean, you're paying them significantly less than what you're paying an officer
So I
to be
think
down there,
that'll,
so,
it'll balance out.
yep, trust me. And
plus
right
it'll be
now,
a good feeder program.
yeah, and I really don't think my LELS counterparts are gonna be too worried because they're all beat down with overtime right now with how short we are. I mean, our overtime board is filled up all the time, so, I think they very much welcome these positions and to help out with a lot of the little things that go on. And again, blight, things like that, snow's melting and we're all starting to see it again right away. And I mean, if they can help Trish out in any way, getting out there and get eyes on things and get letters sent out, those are all wins for the whole city, so.
And there will be a training and orientation component to this as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Okay, any other further discussion with respect to this? Sherry.
I just need to know the number we settle on.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Just need to know the number. How many?
Yeah.
3, 4?
And Councilor Johnson's motion was to move this forward for, implementation as we move forward for discussion. So that's the purpose of expediting this process. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
The next item was we discussed the phased retirement agreement for the Community Development Department.
Councilor Freely.
I guess I would move to continue the phased retirement agreement that we have with Bill Cole to assist with the needs that have arisen with regard to the designated building officials' responsibilities and the volume of responsibilities that are facing the city at this point in time. I think continuing the relationship we have with Bill would be very beneficial to the city. I'm not sure how that's budgeted and or if it will continue to be budgeted, but I think we need to think of that very seriously.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Beyondich.
And Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, at the personnel meeting, was this budgeted for 2025?
Specifically for Mr. Cole's phased retirement, no. But I can tell you that there is enough money in the 2025 budget because the previous building official left in May, didn't fill that until just recently, and the person that came in is being paid much less
Would it be
than
prudent?
budgeted.
Would it be prudent for us to have a time frame? You deal with the budget for that department, or, I mean, to have the dollars is what I'm asking.
Okay, that was a little confusing, could you?
Sorry. So you're saying that you have some money left
We have money to cover this for 2025.
for the full year?
Yes, because it's part-time.
Thank you.
And in this phased retirement, he's only paid for the hours that he's requested to be here. Okay, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, I feel like it was discussed that it was not budgeted, and we went over it. It's been listed under, well, we had other professional services, which was the stipend, and then under.
And ceased, yep.
Yep, and that stopped. Now, going forward, to put a timeline on this, I feel like the department is fully staffed. And that was my concern, is the department fully staffed, Britt?
Yes.
So this is an additional on top of having a fully staffed department, is that correct?
Yes.
And the purpose of continuing this would be, what is the purpose for continuing?
To act as a mentor and provide guidance to the junior staff in the building code hourly basis, so only paid when they actually work.
So can we set a timeline on, or time limit on this? Because I feel that part of the discussion we had with hiring our new building code official was that she would have the support, or the employee would have the support of the other building code officials in the area. And it was not put forward during that time of the hiring process that we were going to continue a phased retirement. We were under the impression that the phased retirement was going to sunset. So I'm just curious as to, can we put a time limit on this? I'm truly not in favor if the department is fully staffed, But if we can put a time frame on this and we do have money in the budget, I would maybe reconsider. Someone can answer that.
Okay, thank you. Well, Sherry, you discussed there's money available to do that, but Councilor Paulson is requesting some kind of a time limit and we should be reviewing this on a monthly basis if that's going to move forward. So, Sherry?
Thank you. It's, my concern is we just hired, or just, no, it's the committee of the whole, so it won't get approved till next Tuesday, a fire marshal. The fire marshal knows the fire code. Bill is the only other one that knows the fire code. Stephanie still has to have some training. So and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brett, that is a big concern.
I think we have our building official here and our fire chief and deputy fire chief that can also weigh in on the fire code issue too. It is a concern that.
Point of order, I believe that Gary made a motion and there hasn't been a second.
Yeah.
And I will second it for the further discussion.
Did you make that motion, Gary? I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't hear the motion. I apologize for that. So motion by Councilor Frieda being supported by Councilor Johnson. Further discussion. Before you come up here, my only concern is that if we can work this out, is that I don't want to delay in reviewing these plans, whether they're house plans, whether they're commercial development plans. If you have to send them down to the state or use some other method in which to do so, I don't want to delay this plan review for a month while these buildings want to move forward. So if there's a way that can be accomplished by the current staff, I'm comfortable with that. But in order to expedite for a short period of time for further mentoring, I would be supportive of that. But the money issue seems that we have some money based upon some personnel issues there. But I think Councilor Paulson's alluded to the fact that, we should have some type of a time limit in that regard. So we're at the further discussion phase. Any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich.
Can you tell me how long an employee is allowed to be on phased retirement?
5
Is there a
years.
time limit?
5 years.
5 years,
Up to 5 years?
maximum of 1,044 hours per year.
So, and I'm okay with having this go, but I think there should be some type of a timeframe looked at as well. Thank you.
Just for everybody's clarification, we're already on year 2, so there's only 3 more years left that he's able to even access that. So keep that in mind, we can't go past that 3 years.
Thank you. We'll move to the person who seconded this motion, Councilor Johnson, and then we'll move to Councilor Motley. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna read this again. We need to trust the professionals we hired to do the work. And the recommendation and the need of planning and zoning, department, community, whatever development, is that we keep this position on for mentoring and training. I feel like it's a lot more productive use of taxpayer dollars to have somebody in-house who has institutional knowledge as well as local knowledge to train and mentor our new building official. Having that person available when we need them, scheduling work weeks at part-time, and scheduling a day where they can do their job only benefits the city of Virginia and our safety. I believe that if we rely on the professional organization of others, there will be no time that we won't have that amazing resource to move forward. I'm not worried about a time frame. Our department heads manage their budgets, and I would think that when this became a challenge or the department head felt that we were running out of money, they would come back to us and ask us for more money or a different plan. So I will be supporting this without the micromanagement of budget and time and how many days and all that stuff. That's all built into the contract already. It is nothing this council should be worrying about at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Motley, and then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Motley.
I guess what's slightly frustrating to me is that I was told this phased retirement individual had quit. So yet we're having this discussion and he's still here. So I don't like when I'm not told proper information, number one. And number two, the city recommended putting forth an individual who currently has the job that we put her into as the most qualified, or as a qualified candidate with the testing or whatever that was required. So if this individual is qualified, has everything on paper that is needed, it's frustrating to me that we have to continue on with a phased retirement on somebody I was told quit and is not budgeted, but yet the money's there. So that's kind of where I stand. Obviously, it's the city's recommendation. It sounds like to continue him on, but if that's going to be the course of action, I want to see a timeline. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Motley. Councillor Paulson.
Thank you. I would agree that I would like to see a timeline, and I would think that maybe by the end of 2025, we could sunset the phased retirement. I would like to address comments that are continuously being made, and I would like to go over our personnel policies and under the definition of harassment, and then I would like to talk about the procedure when being harassed. Harassment includes any physical, verbal, and visual conduct that creates an intimidating, offensive, or hostile environment which interferes with work performance. Such conduct constitutes harassment when submission to the conduct is made either an implicit or an explicit condition of an employment. Submission to or rejection of the conduct is used as a basis for an employment decision, or the harassment interferes with an employee's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. The procedure to deal with a harassment situation: immediately tell the person displaying offensive behavior to stop. He or she may not be aware that his or her conduct is unwelcome or offensive. This is the fourth or fifth time that Councillor Johnson has used disparaging, intimidating, and harassing language when Councillor Johnson states that we do not trust the staff and we micromanage. And it is very, it is causing it's causing an actual hostile work environment, an offensive work environment for me when department heads and city staff feel, and because they keep hearing from Councillor Johnson that we don't trust the staff and we don't trust the staff because we have different opinions. That is creating a hostile work environment for me as a councillor to be able to professionally conduct my duties as an elected official, as well as the chair of the Personnel Committee. I have brought this forward to our city attorney, and I would like a weigh-in at this point.
We have a motion on the floor. We should vote on that motion first and then discuss this, if we would, in order to follow the proper process. Did you have something with respect to this?
What I would say is, because of this language, and if I decide to vote yes, or if I decide to vote no on something, this is actually intimidating my vote. So this is a part of the intimidation that I feel when Councillor Johnson makes these remarks. So if I choose to vote no because I don't agree with what he says, he's intimidating me by telling everybody in this room that I don't trust our staff and I'm micromanaging.
Brian? Let's see, the motion before we should vote with respect to this?
Correct, Mayor. So at this point, the comments that have been made have been made. I think, in my opinion, the best course of action is to resolve the motion and then speak to this issue after that motion is resolved. I can
Yep.
give a statement if the mayor would like, or we can resolve the motion.
Okay, let's call for the motion, and then we'll discuss a secondary piece that's addressed by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion with respect to this? Counselor Paulson, do you have some more?
I would like the motion read back, and I don't know that I'm going to vote for this if it doesn't have a time provision.
Okay, thank you. Motion, would you read back the motion, please?
Sure. Motion by,
Counselor Freely.
Relib, second by Steve Johnson to move forward and approve the phased retirement agreement in the Community Development Department.
Okay, that's the motion. Further discussion. We'll continue with the discussion. Counselor Freely, then Counselor Motley. Counselor Freely.
I'm not opposed to amending my motion to at least suggest a timeline of, say, December 31st, 2025 as a review of where we're at with regard to this position. I wouldn't say that we necessarily have to sunset it at that point, but at least review where we're at with that.
Okay, that is your request to amend?
Sure.
Counselor Johnson?
I would agree with the review at the end of the year. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So the motion on the floor is to move forward with the phased retirement program that we have with a review by December 31st of 2025. That's the motion in the second. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Motley.
That had been was going to be my question to the motioner about, I would love to see it sunset at the end of the year, but with that addendum to your motion, I'll support it.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Counselor Bachschneider.
Thank you. So the review would be taking place by December 31st with a decision then in January sometime, or would a decision be made in December? I think that's my clarification to the timeline. Thank you.
Well, the motion is to review by December 31st. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Counselor Beyondich?
Thank you. So that could be called for review anytime in December with the decision, even earlier than that.
I would think during our budget talks for sure, during the levy discussions before September, we'd be having that conversation.
Perfect.
On what the plan is.
Thank you.
We can do it anytime prior to that, yes. Do you have something else, Counselor Freely?
Well, I think, Stephanie is the person that we're talking about that's going to be mentored and provided this assistance. And so maybe her input at some point during the year, she might say, I'm good. Bill has given me what I needed and we're good. So, I'm just trying to create that timeline so that we at least have this consultative professional service availed to Stephanie in that department for a time frame that's reasonable to when we determine it can be sunset or eliminated.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll call for the vote. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's continue on. Can we continue on with Councilor Paulson's discussion here?
Yeah, Mayor.
Please, let's continue with that discussion then, Councilor Paulson. Anything? Okay, very good. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm not going to comment on the status of any complaints that have been received, but what I will comment on, Councilor Paulson, obviously the language that you read from the city's policy is accurate. And just as a general observation, I don't want to get too far down into details, but as a general observation, the council should be free and should always express their opinions and their points of view on the different matters that are of concern to the city. But we've got to be careful and be sure not to do that by singling individuals out or making individual statements directed toward a person. We have to remember that as a city council body, there's only two ways that you can have an opinion. It's either a personal opinion or it's an action by the council. And so long as we observe those things and be mindful of each other, hopefully we'll be able to get through this.
Anything else? Next item.
The final item that's coming from the Personnel Committee on February 24th is 8C, and we had a request from the Rockridge Schools for the city departments to participate in the Rockridge Job Shadow Week of March 24th through the 28th, 2025.
So moved.
Support.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
But we had a Personnel Committee meeting also on February 25th, and at that meeting, we are moving forward a recommendation to approve the appointment of a commissioner to the Human Rights Commission.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Friedel. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion? We got a chance to meet that candidate at the Humane Society when we were delivering cans to the recycling, and that candidate is very excited to come forward and serve. So thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 10 is a request from the Fire Department or Ambulance Service to purchase Lucas chest compression systems for the Virginia Fire Department utilizing the state of Minnesota EMS funds.
So moved.
Deputy Chief Eric Jonason here.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to move this forward. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Counselor Motley for further discussion. Further discussion, Counselor Motley, and then we'll go to Assistant Chief Jonason.
Just curious, how many of these do you guys have? I'm just nosy.
Bear with my voice, it's been in and out. Currently, we have 3,
Okay,
which only outfits half of our ambulances.
gotcha. And I've had the ability to see these in action, just working for the Virginia Hospital for many years. So it's cool that we don't have to pay for it, but it's we're getting it from, sounds like from grants, covered 100%.
This will be paid for by the emergency funding set forth by the legislator in the last session.
Okay, thank you. And we definitely need them anyway. So anyway, thank you.
As Chief, we have moved and supported, and we've had discussion, we're ready to vote. Do you have any other final comments before we vote?
Unless there's questions.
Any questions for Assistant Chief Jonason or Chief Frederickson that's in the audience? So it has been moved and supported. Further discussion, Counselor Bachschneider?
Thank you. I'm wondering if you can, just as a new person, like the grant overall, just a very high-level overview. How much money from this grant do we typically get annually? Is it something that only happens now? Do we expect it every year? Things like that. Thank you.
Not a grant per se. So in the last legislative session, in order to help rural ambulance services out, they set forth, I believe it was $24 million to support rural ambulances. The MSRB, which is now the Office of EMS, built out a matrix to figure out how much each ambulance service will be getting. So out of that $24 million pot, the City of Virginia Fire and Ambulance received $194,000 and change to be used for operational expenses. Going forward, I know there's numerous bills in the House and Senate right now pertaining to rural funding of EMS. Some of it's pertaining to Medicare, some of it's operational funding similar to this. We don't know what's going to happen yet. Our lobbyists are not only the city lobbyists, but Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, the MPFF, everybody that's got lobbyists down there is working to make this more continuum of rural funding or funding for rural EMS to help us out.
So just to add on to that, $120 million was requested in the last legislative session for rural ambulance reimbursement, $120 million, a bipartisan sponsored bill. The governor's bill reduced that to $16 million. During the course of negotiations with legislative leadership, they were able to cobble together $24 million to be distributed throughout the state of Minnesota all ambulance service, not just rural, but all ambulance service, and our portion was $194,000. So one-time allocation, not a grant, but an allocation from the state of Minnesota through funding there. There's some additional funds that are being considered, a bunch of bills that's been introduced, one by Senator Farnsworth and the other by Representative Warwick, to move some additional rural funds our way. That hasn't been approved. They're still discussing that. A decision probably won't be made till probably the last day of the legislative session in May, so we'll know if we're going to get anything else with respect to it. But this particular pot of money was a one-time allocation based on a matrix that was established by the RB board back in the day, which is the MSRB board, which has been replaced now. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. When I was reading through the guidance for use, I was impressed with how much it allowed you to use it for a lot of different things. So thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Bachschneider. Any other discussion? It's been moved and supported. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 11, at a previous meeting, we discussed that we may want to look at increasing our permit fees for various permits from the city. Staff has prepared a list for you. I did print it out for the council on a much larger sheet, so it's a lot easier to read. There is a couple copies up there if anybody needs one. Then they also prepared information regarding other cities around us, what they charge for permits. And I will turn this over to Jenny and Stephanie, as they were the ones that prepared this information.
Are there any questions that anybody has on the fee schedule that I can help answer?
Counselor Johnson?
Thank you. How do we prevent getting this far behind in the future? Like, do we need to adopt a policy when it comes to reviewing these annually, or have staff review them annually? So I'm just looking at on the top of the page where it says commercial permits, use cost permit $1 to $5, proposed base $25. Like that's a huge jump, and I'm not opposed to these at all by any means. I'm just trying to figure out how we not do this again.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Great questions. I think I do want to make one point of clarification on the commercial permit chart there that you were looking at, the $1 to $500. That's what the fee is based on. That's not what the fee currently is. The current fee is $15 base, and we're proposing a $25 base. And I think going forward, it's certainly something that we can review annually. I can't speak to the years prior, but I know we did bring it up when I first started in 2023, because I felt it was way out of line with what the rest of the region is charging. So I think an annual review is a very good suggestion, and if you feel that that's a motion that you'd want to make to put that down, I think that would be a good suggestion. Otherwise, we will just do that. We can just do that as a department.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I think that is something we do need to do, because we have a tendency to forget sometimes with everything else. You all are so busy doing your stuff. All of a sudden, it's been 2 years, and so I guess I will start with a motion to direct staff to create the policy of annual reviews of permitting for both commercial and residential.
Moved by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Bachschneider?
Not on that one. I'll wait for the next.
Mayor's back.
Thank you. Okay, moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Bachschneider.
So around the actual fees in here, Jenny, as well, How could we better communicate, I guess, to the public, especially under the residential permits, what permits are for? So when I was looking through it, I saw like furnace and water heater, things like that. You know, I didn't realize that that was something that you maybe had to get a permit for. So how do we, is there a communication plan as well?
I'm sorry, Jenny?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Bachschneider. We do have a fact sheet on our website, and we do have several fact sheets that we hand out to folks that request that, or that, you know, are talking to us about permitting, about what requires permits and what does not require permits. We've done a really fantastic job in the last several years of continually improving that and making sure that we get that word out.
Thank you.
These are very reasonable fees.
For what it's worth, I think that annual discussion also helps. We do have quite a base that people that watch our meetings. And so even just us talking about it annually will help us get that word out too.
Well, thank you, Jenny. These are still very reasonable fees moving forward. As alluded to with discussion with the other mayors and what they charge in other cities too, so it's very reasonable. Councilor Bachschneider?
I'll move the fee increase suggested by city staff.
Support.
Moved by Councilor Bachschneider, supported by Councilor Johnson, to move the fee schedule forward as recommended. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is the review of the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. We did discuss at the last meeting if we could talk about curbside pickup again, or our city cleanup days. And then I also did present the 25 through 2035 capital outlay request. Remember, that plan is a request. It's not a guarantee that's going to be put in the budget, but that's the kind of the needs that the department heads see for every department, what they think they're going to need for capital going forward. They present it to the council as part of their budget every year, and then we decide if we're going to do the work or not. I did print that large too, so that it's easier to read, because it's hard to read digitally.
Councilor Bachschneider?
Thank you, and thank you for clarifying that this is a request list. That was going to be one of my questions. Is this the wish list, or is this formally approved? So
we warn all the department heads, and I think they can all attest that you can ask for anything you'd like, but we can't guarantee everything can get on the budget. It is also a good thing for us to know future-wise for grants. Random grants pop up, like that EMS one that we didn't know we were going to get, and then we can try to zero in on what we know we need.
Absolutely.
Moving forward.
Very helpful, thank you.
Yep.
Looking specifically at the 10-year capital outlay and garbage, it looks like we have a new garbage truck in the budget almost every year. It was more often than I was maybe thinking it would have been. I think at one point, Jim, you had said that we would need a new garbage truck every 5 years. Does this still feel accurate for what we have? And I don't know if you've seen this, and I can show you if not, for what we're looking at.
Jim Rosved, our Public Works Director. Thank you.
We're not actually needing a new garbage truck. What we have is we have what I would consider 3 garbage trucks that run every day. We actually have 4. We have a spare, so one's down, but we're running 3 every day. 2 pick up strictly garbage, 1 picks up cardboard. The cardboard's capable of picking up garbage, and we try to rotate them through about every five years. So that truck that just got replaced, I believe, might have been a 16 or a 17. Now we have 2 trucks that were built in 22, so we're looking at like 27 and 28. So usually we're getting about 5 years out of a truck. We might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of them, but there you get into the liners, and the trucks are coming apart internally, which is the back half of the truck. So do you invest in replacing the whole liner, or do you go to another truck and then you move that truck down into one of your spare truck, and then your oldest truck you kick out.
Thank you, that's helpful. The reason why I'm just asking if this is still accurate is, so when we're looking at, in 2026, we have a recycling truck budgeted, in 2027, 2028, 2030, 2033, and 2034, garbage trucks budgeted. And so when we're looking at doing a rate increase, I'm assuming these numbers are in play at what we would want that rate increase to be, so we know we have money set aside for the future. And so are we going to need garbage trucks that frequently? Or is it a little less frequent than maybe is what is listed on here?
It might be a little less frequent. And we're not sure on the cost of the garbage trucks either. I mean, we've seen about a $70,000 increase in the last garbage truck. And it worries me to see the costs are gonna be again when they come up again, so.
And that was, my next question as well, was inflation and considered in for each year, because it was $350,000 budgeted every year for the garbage truck starting in 2025 and also in 2034. And I think realistically, we know that that isn't true, that it'll be more in 2034 than it was in 2025.
Yes.
Those are all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Boxell. Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, so when we were bringing this forward to review the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, I kind of wanted to talk about the financials and how the money moves in and out. So maybe we could do that at another meeting, the actual financial part of it.
100%.
Like with the administrative, so I'd like to talk about the administrative fees. And then when we are planning on the purchases of the vehicles, just, like, what is the rule that you had told me, how much needs to be in? Or is it a rule of thumb, or is it a guideline?
Yeah. That you have a year and a half of operating is what you'd like to see in a fund balance. So you want enough to cover a year and a half. If something were to happen and nobody paid the bill anymore, we had enough money to cover at least a year and a half of expenses.
Okay.
Is the guideline.
And so I know that information isn't in here, and you're probably not prepared to talk about that today.
I do think that's I think you're hitting right in the head, that maybe that's a brief discussion, or a discussion that's separate at a separate meeting, that we just talk about that. Because it's a large discussion and it takes a lot of time.
Okay, so I don't know if that needs a motion, but like for me to understand that, and then so our department heads also understand that, and then how we can plan either if it needs to be a rate increase or some sort of adjustment, that we all understand what that enterprise fund, how that should be working, and how the administrative fee goes in and out. So if we could do that at another meeting, I would greatly appreciate it. And I would make that motion to bring it to, as soon as staff has the information prepared.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Paulson. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
By Councilor Beyondich for discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Beyondich.
So when we have these monthly meetings or discussions on finances, could they include the monthly balance sheets?
They do. They do.
The revenues and expenditures and the budgets?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll be able, and those are sent out to us like the week before, I believe, don't you? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I know we have a lot on our plates with staff, but if you could get this done as soon as possible, the sooner we determine what we need to do with respect to rates, the better off we'll be to determine what rate increase, if any, has to be done, and then what is the long-term impact of it. And we want to make sure that for the long term, we have a healthy solid waste fund to accommodate not only the 10-year capital plan, but the other unfunded mandates that might come from the county with respect to tipping fees and all the kinds of things, wages and benefits, all that kind of stuff has to be encapsulated and incorporated in a spreadsheet with some projections. And we won't know exactly what those are, but it will give us a guideline to determine whether we do need a rate increase, and if we do, how much is that? I think that's to be done expeditiously as soon as we can moving forward, because the health of our fund is not there. So we could get that done for the private meeting as the motion stands. I think that would be beneficial to all of us. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is to discuss the letter received from resident regarding parking on 6th Avenue North. And I did include in the packet the minutes I had found that correlate to why they changed that to no parking.
So this is calendar parking right now?
No, there's no parking.
There's
on
no
the east
parking
side of
on
6th
that
Avenue North,
6th
running
Avenue
straight
by
to Walnut
the
Street.
Rotary Apartments there?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Chief?
Yeah, it's one of those weird areas again that, you have to go in the Wayback Machine, and I guess I don't even know the reason why it was originally, it just always seemed like a goofy area. That utility building that is on the corner there, I've been told in the past that that was part of the issue. Another part of it was back when Anytime Fitness was there. You had people parking, and they had issues with them backing out onto the roadway and things like that. That's obviously not the case anymore, and the business that's currently on the corner doesn't have anywhere near as many visitors to it. So, speaking with Chief Mattson, we both agree that removing the signs that say no parking along the east side of 6th Avenue would make the most sense, and then calendar parking apply. I do think talking to the Rotary staff to see if maybe they want a bus loading zone or something like that out front would probably make a little bit of sense, because I know a lot of the folks that live there do require, some of the bus activity that goes on. But, otherwise, it's a simple fix. It's funny how we get some of those areas, and it seems like people that don't have residences directly across the street feel like they want special parking and stuff like that. If I lived in an area where there was nobody directly across the street, I would feel fortunate that I don't have to jockey for those positions. So, and again, people get upset with calendar parking because it is a pain. We understand that, it is. But at the end of the day, and Jim can attest to it, getting that snow moved and moved in a timely manner is of the utmost importance. So if we allow people to just not have calendar parking on their block, it becomes a lot more difficult for us to get up there. Now, there still is overtime parking, which requires people to move their car every 24 hours, but that's not the same as calendar parking, making them move to the opposite side so the plow can come by and get things cleared out. It's the necessary evil, and our poor parking monitor probably has a target on his back like no other, but it is what it is. So that's kind of our take on it. I would say just get rid of the no parking signs. Calendar parking is enforced in that area, like most other areas of town, and try to help the Rotary out with maybe a special zone out there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chief.
I will make that a motion.
Okay. Okay, Counselor Johnson made the motion to remove the no parking signs, replace them, and then work on a bus pickup zone there. So the motion is by Counselor Johnson
And to notify the residents of the change. So, yes, remove the no parking signs, work with Rotary, and then make sure we're informing the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, and so that I'll refer to calendar parking, and it's supported by Counselor Motley. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Item number 14 is a piece of property that we've been trying to obtain since late 2024. We finally have agreement from the owner, the current owner, to sell us the piece of property. It's kind of located off and west of 12th Avenue South. It's got a very long legal description. It's the piece that we've been looking for the easement purposes that we have back there, and there's also a little bit of development potential. He had agreed to the price of $22,500 plus closing costs, so now today we are ready to bring it forward for approval of the resolution to be adopted at the council meeting.
I will move the resolution forward for approval.
Counselor Johnson moves to move the resolution forward for approval. Is there support? Support by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering where the funds will be coming out of if this passes.
We did already agree in 2024's budget to take it out of contingency, so it's sitting there waiting for this to be approved. So the auditors will earmark that when their auditors are here this week. the auditors will earmark that as a 2024 expense.
What was the balance of that contingency fund?
It was, I think we ended with, do you remember, we had money left in the contingency
Okay.
fund.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I
Had
didn't
not
get
used
that.
it all. Sorry, Sherry.
Okay. Thank you. Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 15 is a request to discuss potential procurement of a municipal cannabis license. This was a request from Councilor Freed.
Okay. Well, I'll start and then move forward. From a personal perspective, I'm not, the cannabis issue has always been a problem for me. But the law is a law, and the law says we can do it. And I think it would be prudent for us, even if we don't use we can apply for it and hang on to it. So, I mean, just to have it before the timeline moves forward, in the event that we move forward with that from a tax perspective or from a delivery of services or whatever the case may be. I know there's a lot of other cities that are considering the municipal cannabis opportunity. However, the law does state if you have a municipal, you still must issue one to the private party as well. So, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm curious as to how that might work. So then the city, if the city applies for this, I know we just get lumped in just like every other applicant, according to the Office of Cannabis Management. But my question is, if the city, even if the city executed it, we would be hiring city employees, we would be paying salaries and wages to sell pot?
Well, I think, Britt, what we would do, if I may, we would contract that services out. Would we not?
That is an option.
What's an option?
Option to hire city staff. It's an option to
Yeah, there's an
contract it.
Is an option to lease that to somebody like you do with the municipal liquor stores around.
So the leasing or the company that came forward, I think that Britt sent to us, their main headquarters was Illinois, and then the company that emailed us was from Michigan, and we would get up to 25%, I think it was, or 35%. So I'm not a real advocate because it's not like you're going to be generating 100% of the revenue, and I'm not an advocate when we require a lot of our staff to obtain their CDL license, and it's still a federal law. You cannot operate that type of equipment after marijuana usage. So I'm not in favor of the city doing a municipal cannabis license because we would not be benefiting 100% of any of the profits. Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you. I have to agree with Councilor Freely and the mayor that having the option in the future is really important. 25% of cannabis sales is more than nothing. And that they do all the work, that they would hire the right people to do the job. I think it is one of those things that looking forward we need to do so that we can make decisions and future councils can make decisions about what is best for the city. By not doing it, I think we're tying our hands for the future. This is only about getting the license and having it should the right people come along. So I will be supporting doing what we need to do to get the municipal license. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Freely.
So I just requested to have this put on here because I saw in the paper or somewhere that there was a window that has been availed for communities to apply for a license. And I saw that that window was quite short. As a matter of fact, I think it closes on the 14th of this month. And the reason I thought that this would probably be potentially beneficial to the city of Virginia is because this is the most contemporary, most recent legislatively approved business opportunity for anywhere in Minnesota right now. And there are franchises of such that are popping up in other areas that have been legislatively approved, particularly like, for example, in northern Michigan. And I'm sure that there are well-established business outlets that would be interested in potentially moving to Virginia to open a store here as well. And we are a community that we've talked about. We don't have a whole lot of elbow room for anything. We don't have a lot of retail business development that's occurring. It takes us 7 to 15 years to get something like a Taco Bell in town. We're just not in the position to push away opportunities that will increase revenue for the city of Virginia in any capacity, and particularly so. I think this would be a business that would provide the 1% sales tax that is desperately needed to increase the revenue provided for paying off the bond on the event center, which is creating all kinds of angst in this city as to the cost that we're incurring for that particular building. So again, I just saw that there was a window of opportunity for a community to apply for such a license. I think it would be in the best interest of the city to procure that license so that we could have it and determine how we would wish to use it, whether that's to put it on a shelf and not use it, or to seek contractors to do it for us, or in whatever way to create that kind of business opportunity in the city of Virginia. So that's where I'm at with that. I think we should pursue that within the next 3 days to try and acquire that, and then talk further in terms of like how we could use it in a way that might benefit the revenue that the city is desperately in need of.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Motley?
For me, I was never a fan of this law going into action in Minnesota, just working in healthcare. It's not, well, my opinion doesn't matter, but when I hear that we can potentially possibly make revenue, which we could so desperately need in this city, even though I'm 100% against it being legalized, that is a moot point at this point. I would be for the right opportunity for the city to be in the right business, but I would never support city work staff selling this. It would have to be the right deal with an outside source, with the city benefiting substantially for me to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Councilor Paulson?
Mayor, I won't be voting in support of this, but according to the email, it's an outside company basically pitching to the city of Virginia that they want to manage so they're encouraging us to jump on the license by saying the deadline closes March 14th, and that's actually not the case. So this email is false. And I'm not sure why that email, we're basing our decisions off of an outside company from Illinois, headquartered in Illinois, managed or in Michigan. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. That deadline is, it's currently being extended. I mean, they don't have a sunset to the deadline. So I don't know.
Not for municipals.
Not for municipals. So that's false information. And as far as the 1% sales tax goes, we're actually way ahead in collecting 1% to pay off our bond. And we're doing excellent because of our wonderful commerce partners in Virginia, Target, Menards, all of our great retail, our downtown businesses. We're actually way ahead in collecting our 1% sales tax to pay down our bond. The overhead, which cannot be paid, the overhead, which is our operating costs at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center, is where we're way behind. And that 1% cannot be used to pay for our costs of operation or operational costs, which is our overhead. So I wanted to point that out. But the email that we received is misinformation, and I don't think we should be voting on something when it is not factual. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson.
Can
Yes, please, Councilor Freely.
So the email that you're referring to, I just received today, as far as I know. So I would disassociate us entirely from that organization for any involvement with the city of Virginia whatsoever. This is exclusively for the city of Virginia to procure this license for themselves, not for some contracted company like that to do it on behalf of us. I have no interest in that whatsoever, just kind of FYI.
That was the email. They are encouraging us to get the
And
municipal
we
license.
I don't care about them. I don't even have any interest in them, or we should disassociate any reference to them whatsoever, because that has nothing to do with the decision we're making today. It's for the city of Virginia to pursue that for the city of Virginia, not through them.
Correct, but based upon the dates that are not factual in their email to the city.
Meaning what?
Maybe Jenny?
Mayor, if I can just add some
please.
of my understanding of the rules provided by the state, and I don't know if Attorney Lindsay can weigh in on this with his knowledge base, but as I understand it, applications are open currently. They close March 14th. The state has encouraged municipalities to also apply during this time frame. I think it's a gray area of whether or not we can apply after this time frame. I don't know that that's been decided, but they say that you're encouraged and that we don't fall within the lottery that is currently part of the application process right now. So I just wanted to make a couple clarifications on that as I understand it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate that very much, Jenny. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I will move to direct staff to be in the process of obtaining a municipal cannabis license.
Support.
Moved by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Motley.
For me, I feel like we're rushing into this, not that I'm not for it, but I want to just lay back a little bit and see what happens. I don't want to be the first ones to I'm not prepared to support it quite yet. Thank you.
For me, it's the Office of Cannabis Management has not clarified many of these things. And until they do so, we should have the opportunity to make sure that we have all the facts moving forward. So I don't know where they're at. I know there's a deadline for commercial, but not for municipal. You know, there's no clarity there. So there's a lottery for commercial private cannabis retails. There's a lottery for that, right? There would be no lottery for the municipal because there's one municipality. You're authorized to have one municipal liquor license or one municipal cannabis license based upon the current law. Is that correct, Jenny?
As I understand it, yes, Mayor.
Pardon?
As I understand it, yes.
As I understand it as well. Thank you. Okay. There's a motion on the floor moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Friedli.
I just look at it as an opportunity for us to acquire a license that potentially could allow us to contract with a well-established, reputable franchise that's already doing business in another state that might be willing to do business in the city of Virginia. And I don't dispute the fact that we are either equal to or ahead of the 1% sales tax revenue that we're receiving. But if we could double that and pay off our event center in 5 years or 7 years or 10 years as opposed to 20 years, that would be very beneficial to the city. So again, I'm not a proponent of anybody involving themselves in the products that this place would be selling. However, there are a lot of people that would be interested in having that availed to them in this community and surrounding communities, because they've never, ever had the opportunity to have that availed in a legal manner in the past. And so I think it's a tremendous opportunity for revenue to be raised for the city of Virginia, and to bypass this window of opportunity to acquire such a license, I think would not be in the best interest of the city, one that's, again, starved for revenue in multiple ways and for business development over the course of the time that I've been sitting here on the council. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, read back the motion, please. Was it moved and supported to apply for a cannabis municipal license? Is that what the motion is? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
A roll call, please.
Counselor Paulson?
No.
Motley?
No.
Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Beyondich?
No.
Counselor Bach Schneider?
Aye.
Counselor Philip?
Aye.
And Mayor Coffey.
Aye.
Noes?
Thank you. 4-3, thank you. Before we move forward, I just want to clarify, it's a difficult decision for you to make to separate my personal issue with the potential issue for the city. But this is just to apply for the license, not to implement it. Just if we shelve it, whatever, we would have a lot of work to do before we do that. So to negate that opportunity, I think we should at least look at vetting it. So it's with a lot of angst, I vote yes. So thank you. Anything else on that subject? Okay, next item, please.
The final item is clinic lease update. This portion of the meeting may be closed for attorney-client privilege to discuss potential litigation. Minnesota Statute 13D05, Subdivision 3, unless there's any other items that want to come before the council before.
Are there any items to come before the council first? If not, we'll take a break and then we'll move into closed session. No other items to come before? Okay, let's take a few minutes and then we'll come back and go into closed session. Thank you, everybody.